On today's episode, we're chatting with Holly and Cassie, a couple from Utah who were raised in the Mormon church. They have 5 kids together, and in the past few years, their lives have changed drastically. Erica and I met them this past June at the New York City Pride Parade, and we are thrilled to welcome them to the podcast to share their story. This episode discusses suicide and mental health challenges. Please take care of yourself as you listen and skip this episode if you need to. If you or someone you know is in crisis, you can call or text 988 in the US to reach the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. For LGBTQ+ support, you can check the show notes for resources.
We want to pause here and say directly that we support you. We stand with the queer and trans community always. You are seen, you are loved, and your story matters.
We are so excited to welcome Holly and Cassie to the Unseen podcast. And I think we need to open our conversation by telling everyone how we met them, right? Erica, I think you should tell the story.
Yeah, so we were in New York for Pride with all of the children and the chaos. And I actually think you got into a fight with someone trying to get a front row situation.
There was no fight.
It's fine. It was close anyway. And so we were hanging out and we saw this beautiful couple and we were like, hey, who are you guys? Where are you from? And then we just started chatting. And
then they said Utah and our jaws hit the pavement and we were like, we must know everything.
Yes. So that's how we met. Serendipitous.
So yeah.
Well, from our side, we were in New York celebrating our 20th anniversary. Not New York. We left on a cruise out of New York.
They'd just gotten off of the cruise ship and got into our hotel in New York.
And had no idea that Pride was going on in New York that day. And we were so sad because June is such a crazy month for us. And we had missed every Pride event out here in Utah. And we're like, this is so sad. We haven't been to any Pride event, any parade or anything. And then we walked in to check into the hotel. Like, oh, are you here for the Pride event? And we're like, we are now.
Yes.
That's amazing. Also, just to walk into any Pride is one thing, but to walk into New York Pride is like a whole different level of, yes.
It was like the coolest thing ever. So, and then meeting you all was our favorite thing. So, best part of our trip.
That's great.
Oh, yeah. Better than the cruise, better than all of it.
20 years married. I mean, come on.
Whatever. I am dying to know how old you guys were when you got married.
I was 19.
Huh?
I was 23.
Oh,
Sorry.
Babies.
My God. Okay. We're going to table that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Tell us your names. Tell us a little bit about yourselves, your family. Give us the intro, the bio.
Okay. I'm Holly.
I'm Cassie.
This is Cassie. We have 5 kids, 4 boys and a little girl. And I don't even know how to
Oh, so, you can talk about, we both were raised LDS or
Mormon,
as a lot of people say. So we both were very, very believing members our whole life up until 2-3 years ago.
Wow.
So we both attended BYU. I went to BYU twice. I did my undergrad and my master's at BYU. And we spent the last 18 years in Provo, Utah, just right by BYU, which Provo-Orem is kind of on the map right now. And then we moved from Provo down here to southern Utah to St. George, down by Zion National Park is always the landmark I give everybody. And we've been here for a few years.
Okay, so I started following you guys on social media, and the first thing I thought about, because you do all these cute things with your kids, also 5 children is insane to me, so God bless you both.
So insane.
I have 1, and I'm good. She has 2, and she's like...
Hanging on by a thread, you can just say it. You can just say it.
And
we're just drowning, full on drowning.
but you make it look amazing.
You do.
The first thing I thought about, like looking through your little socials, and you do these really adorable things. I think it was like these like food standoffs, right? Which I was really a little jealous because I wanted to be a part of that. I feel like I would be really good at, I have an opinion about a lot of things, so I feel like I would be able to do that. But I was like, if Bluey had 2 moms, Like, that's you guys. 100%.
That is very nice of you. I think, well, I don't think we're quite Bluey caliber, but
No, you are.
I mean, that I
must
think is
be.
the highest parenting compliment there
It is. It is.
for real, that's the best bar there is.
So you met at BYU then.
Yeah.
Okay. And so how does it work in the LSD? LDS.
LDS.
I'm like, not LSD.
Not drugs.
That is a drug. So how does it work in that community? You meet, you're in love, and you get married.
Real fast.
Yeah, really fast. So we dated for
We actually dated. We were dating for 9 months before we got married. But
before we got engaged. It was
Honestly,
also-
we're very lesbian, so it tracks.
Yeah.
yeah, that's true.
Okay,
Yes.
you.
And in the Mormon community, it is very typical to, like, we were probably about average. If somebody's dating for like a year and a half, you're like on the long side. And then we also had friends that had met each other a few months and then got engaged and then got married very quickly. So there's definitely like a push and encouragement to get married at a very young age. And we both were in school while we were married, and Holly had just finished
My first year.
First year. So we put ourselves through school as a young married couple. And
And we waited a while to have kids. A lot of people have kids right away. We waited 3 years before we had kids.
I'm like doing the math. I'm like, 3 years, 19.
Yeah.
That's still so young, but that's
Granted,
incredible.
I turned 20 like 2 months after we got married.
Okay, that's
So,
fair.
I mean,
So you were
like, we-
23 when you
old,
started
like,
having
girl.
children.
I mean, but marrying a teenager, very, very on brand for Mormonism. So
Okay. So at the time, and then for probably 15 years of your marriage, this was your life and your belief system. And I assume you attended church together as a family, right?
yeah, we did all the things. I mean, we were about as in as you can get in the church. I served a mission for the church down in Mexico for 2 years.
Wow.
And then in the Mormon church, you have communities, and they call them wards. So it's like your ward boundary is that determines what building you go to and the people you attend church with. And then that's organized kind of into larger stakes and groups like that. But everything is on a very local level, and all the leadership in the church, so the bishop or the pastor, if you will, they call them bishops, are always just like, they'll just be neighbors. They'll be people who live within the community. And so usually there's kind of a process of, based on how diligent and faithful of a member you are, those are the ones that are typically getting called into these volunteer service leadership positions. And so we both fit the mold of Mormonism, and we're very, very diligent. We were at church every Sunday. We paid our tithing. We did all the things, checked all the boxes. So we both served in leadership callings in the local level. And so for the last few years attended in the church, we were both in leadership before we left.
Okay. So you have your own jobs, your own careers, 5 children, and then you're in leadership at a church. You're making me look just really bad here. So I have 2 questions, and I already forgot one of them because my brain is on fire. Do you both come from big families? Do you have a lot of siblings?
I just have one brother.
Okay.
And I'm the oldest of 4.
Okay.
So,
Pretty
When we
small
got
for
married-
a Mormon family.
I mean, if I would say 4 is about typical.
Okay.
More than 4 is a little more rare. Less than 4 is not a lot.
Yeah. So there definitely is like an underlying cultural feeling of the more righteous you are, the more children you have.
Okay.
And the more children you have, the more righteous you are.
Right.
We're trying to fulfill God's plan by bringing more children
Spirits
into this
to the
world.
earth, yeah.
Got it.
So-
Okay. So you got married young, but it was very typical for the community you were in. And did you both decide as a couple, like, we want to have a lot of children? What is a relationship like when you're 19 and you're married and you're thinking about creating a family?
I mean, honestly, you're just given the path to follow. And so you don't really have to think much about it. You get married, you have kids, that's just kind of what you do. But I would say that, like, I don't know if either of us ever planned on having 5. I think I thought 4 was good. Cassie thought 3 was good. And somehow we ended up with 5. So
I think there's definitely like a view of, they call it the covenant path, that you're doing all these right things along the path. And that is one of the things on the path, is have children and listening to what God tells you. We both felt like we were inspired by God to have more children. And here we are with 5 kids.
Here you are with 5 kids. Well, they all look great. And it looks like you guys have a blast together. Sometimes I'm like, that would be really fun because you just have like a whole mess.
Just want to like integrate with your family, and then you can run the things and I'll participate.
We want to go boating with you guys. So I'm going to jump right in with a big question. Cassie, were you just living with gender dysphoria through your whole marriage and through being a part of the church? Is it something that for you was lifelong? Is it something that came later? Walk us through what it was like living, in the Mormon community, being married, having kids, and living with that.
Yeah, no, I got infected with the woke virus through a COVID. I did come out in 2021 to Holly, but I'd known since like my earliest memory, and I was maybe 3 or 4, and that I knew that something was off. And I didn't have the language to be able to articulate it at that age. And I remember telling a neighbor who was one of my really good friends that she got some cute jelly shoes. And I wanted to try them on. And she told me, well, those aren't for boys, those are for girls. And I remember being so confused, being like, I don't get why that is a problem. I just assumed I was just like her. And so that was kind of the first time I started feeling that dysphoria. And then at some point, it shifted from just feeling off to feeling sinful and feeling shameful about it. And the narrative that was kind of given through the belief set was that it was Satan trying to confuse me. I believed that if I was more diligent, if I was more faithful, if I did all the right things, it would go away. So I spent the better part of my life trying to do that, trying to say my prayers every day, read our scriptures. Mormons believe in the going to church on the weekend, but then there's a temple building. That's the big fancy temples. So you have to have certain qualifications to go there, but then it's expected that you should go to the temple on a regular basis. So we were every other week, we were attending the temple, serving in callings and trying to volunteer and do more. And I just kept hoping to, it's not the right term to say pray the gay away, but like to pray the dysphoria, the gender dysphoria away. And it led to a lot of suicidality. It led to a lot of shame. And I believed that it was Satan confusing me, so I couldn't trust my inner compass. So I would just defer to whatever the church said. That was my thinking, was that I can't trust my own self. So whatever the church tells me, I'll do that, which led to, going to BYU, getting married, having the kids, going to church, serving the mission, doing all the things. And it ultimately got to a breaking point where I got to a really, really dangerous place. And on the surface, we seemed like we were the perfect little family, right? We checked all the boxes. We were living in Provo. I had a good job. We were in the leadership callings. We had this beautiful family, but I could feel things just getting heavier and heavier. And thank goodness I went and talked with a therapist. In my effort to find a therapist, I didn't want to be brainwashed, indoctrinated, if you will, whatever term you want to call it. And I worked really hard to try and find a therapist that was also a Mormon who had similar beliefs. And so I went in and said, here's what I'm feeling. Can you just make it go away, please? I can't do it on my own. And her response was very sweet, well, let's just talk about it. That's not really how it worked. Let's talk through this. Let's talk about how you're feeling. And she was wonderful, even though she's a very believing member, and really kind of helped me be able to vocalize and talk about what I was feeling. And then through a lot of my own research and reading, I was able to identify the term gender dysphoria. And I was like, oh, that fits and that resonates with me. At this point, I still had never met a trans person in my entire life that I knew of. And so this idea of it's a social contagion or that you're indoctrinated, that's not the case. That is the furthest thing from the truth. And it wasn't until I started meeting with a therapist and trying to find some other resources that I was able to finally articulate it and eventually come out to Holly. And one of the things the church, their doctrine at the time, and it's kind of changed back and forth, was that the church never supports a transition. But one thing
in the church, gender is eternal. And so the gender that you're born at birth is your eternal gender identity. And so, yeah.
And
For those who are
and so
intersex or just don't belong. Right.
Sorry.
there's a whole thing of the handbook, and that's the different, like, they just kind of tuck that away in the back. But if you're not intersex, then yeah, it's wrong and it's sinful. And they actually compare it next to, they have like these flags. If they find out that there's certain things going on with you, they will flag your records. So they keep really detailed membership records. And when you move, your records get transferred to a new ward. And so they have,
Wherever you
It
move.
feels very Scientology. I'm learning so much right now.
yeah, there's a lot back there. And so it keeps records of all your ordinances and things that you've done. Like, have you been baptized? Have you
Gone through the temple.
have
done
you
all
done
these things.
things? So all those things are tracked. And being on the leadership side, I saw all those records come in, right? So we have records of who all the families are. And every once in a while, a record will come in with a little red flag next to it. And you don't know why there's a red flag. You just know that it's flagged as a moral threat.
Mhm.
So in the handbook, you turn to the handbook and it says, what's the reason that somebody will be flagged? It says you need to set up an appointment and talk with them. Records will be flagged for the following reasons. They practice polygamy, murder, sexual abuse, child pornography,
Misuse of church funds.
misuse of church funds, stealing funds from the church, and being transgender. And so that's the category the church puts them in. And you have to be I was very cognizant of that, and I didn't want to be flagged as immoral. And they also take your technical recommend, you lose your privileges in the church. So I was under the belief that, like, I can accept that I'm trans and I can accept my gender dysphoria, but I'm never going to transition.
Right. And you're never going to tell anyone outside of people that have to know.
Right. And it was helpful to accept it and to articulate and vocalize it with Holly, but the suicidality was still really strong. And so, being a good little diligent Mormon, I went to the handbook and what they say, and they said that it might help. In some cases, it can help taking hormones to ease the suicide. And it wasn't to transition, but it was just to ease the suicidality. And that was one thing that I worked on with my therapist and with our leader, our local leader. And so I started hormones, never with the intent to transition, but to kind of ease that dysphoria.
Interesting.
So, Cassie, how did it feel coming to Holly with this conversation? And then Holly, like, tell us your version.
Yeah, like I was really nervous to talk to Holly. I tried to kind of articulate and talk about it prior, and I was like, I don't know if it's like.
So like 10 years earlier, back when we'd been married 7 years, she tried to come to me and like tried to explain her feelings a little bit, but she didn't have the terminology. I had no idea.
We just kind of ignored it.
We just ignored it for 10 years and just like barely ever brought it up. And so at that point, so I knew it was there, but I didn't like talking about it. She didn't like talking about it. So we just ignored it.
Yeah. So when I started getting to this really rough place and needing to talk to a therapist, I was actually really nervous to even tell Holly that I was going to go see a therapist, because I told her I was going to see a therapist. She'd say, why? And I think it was like the day before my therapy appointment. I was like, just so you know, I have a therapy appointment tomorrow. And she was like, what?
Okay.
And I was like, that stuff we kind of tried to talk about a while ago. It's for that. And she was like, okay. So after I kind of started talking to the therapist,
It was a couple of weeks.
it was a couple of weeks before I really opened up to Holly. And I think I wanted like the lights off. I didn't want you looking at me. I was like still feeling so much of that shame. And I was assuming that you had divorced me. And because the way that the church views it really is like, this is right next to murder. That's murder and sexual abuse and child pornography, like trans is just right there. And so I was like, she's for sure going to divorce me. So I was super nervous to talk to you.
And when she told me, so when she tried to open up to me 10 years earlier, I was completely blindsided, had no clue. Like, she did a really good job performing male. Like, no one.
I was like really good at it.
She was like really good. And so no one had admitted it. So I was blindsided back then. And that like threw me off. But that at least got me thinking a little bit. I mean, just a teeny bit. But like back then I had said, well, I could never be married to a woman. I tried to ask her, do you feel like you were born in the wrong body? And she was like, no, it's nothing like that. She's like, it's like 2% of who I am. It's like not a big deal. Backtrack. That's what she told me. Yeah.
That was a lot.
That was a lot. So when she finally saw the therapist and then used the term transgender, like my life kind of stopped, or like it was one of those moments where time stands still and you realize your whole life is going to be forever changed. So I did not know what was going to happen. I mean, we've always had a pretty communicative marriage. We've always had a pretty strong marriage. And so we talked a lot about it. I didn't know what to think. I spent a lot of time crying, but we would talk for hours and hours every night and just cry together and talk about it. I just needed to understand how she was feeling and what this meant. And so it was so hard, but through that experience, it opened my heart to the whole experience of like, because growing up in the church, you're just taught that it's wrong. You're never taught to think what it would be like to be someone who experiences these feelings. And so I just had always been like, well, it's wrong. Shut it off. Don't think about it. But talking with Cassie and hearing her feelings and just how she had felt this way her whole life and tried everything she could to push it away, it just opened my heart to a whole new perspective of life. And I mean, it was heartbreaking realizing what she had felt her whole life, and to realize that she was at such a low place. It was heart-wrenching, but it helped us draw closer together because we talked even more vulnerably than we had before. Like I thought we had pretty good communication before, but I realized had always had this wall up. And so after she finally accepted who she really was, it was like she came out, but like her full self was finally visible, and it was beautiful and amazing and hard all at the same time.
Oh my God, you're such an amazing partner.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It's incredible. I think depending on what everyone subscribes to, their belief set, I think we've definitely changed a lot. But going back to that like very believing Christian mindset, if I were to find like a Christ-like person, that's Holly. Like she still is one of the most Christ-like people that I know, and just loves people so fully. But even with that being said, I was terrified. In fact, I tried for a long time to convince Holly to divorce. Not that I wanted a divorce, but I didn't think that was fair to her. And so it was almost a daily
It was
thing.
terrible. I hated it. I would work so hard to I can accept this. I can be okay. And she'd be like, you deserve better. You should leave me. And I'm like, stop it. No, I don't want to. But it was hard. But going back to the religious stuff, like I had to completely change the way that I thought. But what it boiled down to me is, believing in Christ at the time and what it means to love someone. I couldn't leave her. Like she is my person, and regardless of gender, she was my favorite person to be with. And so leaving her felt like the most un-Christ-like thing I could do, to leave her when she was so not broken, but I mean, you were just so raw and laying out there, and that would have been terrible.
Well, and I think it also challenged a lot of your belief sets, because we both believed in this thing that the more diligent you are, if you're more faithful, that it will go away, right? That this is just a trial for this earth. And she had firsthand experience of watching that I really was trying to do everything.
She did everything.
And to see that still not go away and almost cost me my life in the process, that was, I think, eye-opening for you to see that, because we still operated under this assumption that, people are just falling to temptation. And I believe I was falling into temptation. So that was really kind of a shift, I think.
Yeah.
In how
absolutely.
we were viewing things.
Well, I got to tell you, it's really beautiful.
Yeah, guys, I'm feeling emotional.
My wife put it a really interesting way. So she grew up Catholic, which I don't think is quite the same as LDS, but still pretty intense. And she was married to a man. And when we met, she was still married to a man. So a little scandalous. And
You love it. She loves it.
Maybe another day. I mean, yeah, but I mean, the way I just remember we were having these conversations early on, and I kept saying to her, but you've never been with a woman. How do you know? Like, how can you take that leap of faith? How can you trust based on everything that you've known your entire life and all the decisions that you've made? Nothing has ever told you that you've wanted to be with a woman until this point. And what she said to me was like, it's the person, not the parts.
Yes.
And I think that is such the beauty of your relationship and my relationship with my wife is that it's never been about like,
Mine's about boobs, so you can all just
but it's always been this foundation of the relationship and having each other's backs. And I don't know, like it's not about gender. And I think that's so incredible. The hill you had to climb to get to that realization is so monumental, but the love you guys have for each other is palpable. So I just think it's a beautiful story.
And I think to continue on that, like we were dating, and like I said, I masked very well. I showed up as a man really, really well. I worked very, very hard to hide who I was. I very deliberately changed how I walked and how I dressed and the things I did. I studied construction management for my undergrad because that's the most manly thing you could do.
That's what men do.
So like I had this facade, and as we were dating, we very Mormon of us, we would go and walk past the temple in Provo. We would go walking at the bus stops. And I remember asking her, what is it that you like about me? And like we were having this conversation about what attracted us and to each other. And she said, well, you're not like the other guys. And I like this, and like proceeded to lay out a lot of my innate feminine traits and characteristics I knew that I was trying to hide. And she saw right through them. But that's what she was attracted to was me and not parts in the facade that I was putting up.
I will say it's given me such a unique perspective having now been with a man and a woman and have it be the same person. But just realizing that, I mean, like I said, growing up in the church, we were taught that anything queer was wicked and wrong. I just loved her. And the fact that she now shows up differently doesn't change who she is. And why all of a sudden would our relationship be wrong now just because she looks different? Like that has just become so clear to me that it doesn't matter who you love. It's the person, not like you're just saying, it's the person, not the parts. It doesn't matter. It's who you connect with. And that's what matters. So
I think that's something so many people, when you just talk about like trans rights or dating or queer people, and they just all have these blanket statements of I could never do this or that. And first of all, you just don't know. You don't who you're going to love, how you're going to love them, what kind of partnership you're going to have. I think everyone has their limits, but every couple can face these different, like how connected are we and how much do I want to be with you no matter what. So yeah, I mean, Holly, you have gotten to be with a man and a woman and have them be the same person. That's amazing. Do you guys have queer community? I assume that's something that came a little slower.
So when we moved down to St. George, we needed to get out of Provo and kind of start over because we were so enmeshed in our life before. People knew and expected certain things of us. And so we needed kind of a fresh start. So we moved to St. George. She still wasn't planning on transitioning at the time, but within a few months of being down here, we came with the intention to meet and build a queer community and network around us. And we've been able to do that. And so within a few months, she and we both realized that she needed to transition and that was the right next step. And now we have this incredible community. There's not a lot of queer people in Utah. And so.
No, that's
okay.
There are a lot of
people.
queer people. There's not a lot of visibly queer people.
That's
okay.
Yeah.
I think it really is like this dichotomy of I travel often for work, and I was like in San Francisco recently, right? And so it's amazing to see pride flags and queer people all over, and to just be a person,
normal person, not a
normal
spectacle.
person, not a spectacle. But then I'm used to like I see another trans person on the street, and I'm like, and they're just like, look at me, why are you waving at me, you weirdo? you're just a weird Utah person. And then here in Utah, when I see a queer person, it is like, oh my gosh, there's another queer person. That's like, do you know this person? Yes, I totally know each other. So we have this really, really, really tight knit, amazing queer community that is growing and thriving. And so it's like really is a chosen family out here. There's less of us for sure. And in our neighborhood, we're the only one with the pride flag in our vicinity. And you don't go into stores and see a pride flag. You don't see it anywhere else. Every once in a while we see a car. Somebody will text us a picture of like a pride flag on a car. And we'll be like, oh yeah,
we know that.
Well, I think that's interesting. I grew up in Maine and I felt similarly when I was young and just coming out and understanding my sexuality and what that mattered to the world, which is a crazy thing that it matters to the world. And then I realized really quickly, like, I need to get the fuck out of here. And so I just started moving farther and farther and farther away. I lived in San Francisco, but I've chosen specifically to live in places like DC, New York, Massachusetts, in that understanding of safety. So I'm super curious. You've remained in Utah. It sounds like you have this small queer community, but you're there for a reason. Have you thought about leaving a red state for something a little safer or something a little bluer?
All the time.
Yeah. When it comes up, it's not really a joke, but like I joke, oftentimes I'm just one bigoted event from moving.
Yeah.
And obviously St. George is very publicized right now in the media. And the environment sometimes can get really, really heated. I'm no longer nervous about being noticed. That used to be my biggest fear. Now my worry is about violence and safety. And so it's been a really interesting change. And it's something that we're aware of, but the community is so amazing out here. I think
the queer community
is amazing out here. I think there's this weird dichotomy of most of the people here are connected to the church somehow. Most of the queer community was raised LDS, and it creates this weird situation where you're told in the church to love everyone and that we love everyone, but there's these like qualifications and there's these conditions. And so as people kind of break down and deconstruct their faith, they all of a sudden have this eye-opening experience of, oh, I can love people without any sort of condition. I can just love people for who they are. And it creates almost like this super supportive,
extra loving
community. And I don't think that could be replicated anywhere else. It's such an interesting like paradigm to have this queer community that overlaps with what they call ex-Mos or former members of the church. And that there's just so much like abounding love within this community. And so that's honestly what keeps us here.
Well, I can tell if you moved to the Hudson Valley in New York, you'd have two best friends like lined up.
Bring your boat.
And you could bring your boat because we have a river and we know houses that are for sale. So just let us know.
Can it fit 7 people?
Yes,
absolutely. It's interesting what you're saying about this community of people who just all love each other, because that's what every church, every organized religion claims to do, and most are failing at that, right? It's absurd. I actually wanted to, so I sent this to Erica earlier today. I flagged this like a month ago. Holly, you had posted something on social media a while back about going out in public as a couple and as a family, how it's getting easier. You're still adjusting to the double takes, the whispers, and even the pictures. People are the worst that people sometimes try to discreetly take. But I get a break from that when I go out alone. Cassie never gets a break. Every single time she leaves the house, she has to deal with her identity being questioned and threatened and oftentimes repulsed. That's just like such a heartbreaking sentiment, but also the awareness of knowing. Can you both speak to that? So as you say, Holly, like when you're out together, you can feel it. But then I talk about how I'm like, people just assume I'm straight. So sometimes they tell on themselves, right? I get to pass when I feel like it. So you're both living in this different experience.
So I do travel for work every once in a while, and it's really nice to get out of Utah and not be a spectacle and to, like I said, only be noticed as a human being. There's times that I'm stronger and it's easier here in Utah to show up. And there's times where I can just have the wrong interaction and it can just spiral me out of control. But it's nice to have, like I said, the community. It's nice to have Holly. And I've talked often about the importance of a pride flag. I think it's a very divisive thing here in Utah. It's just because the church kind of really pushes against having pride flags in Pride Month. And they view it as, why are we celebrating a sin? And for me, I talk about that it makes me feel safe. If I see a flag, I know that I might not ever interact with the person, but I at least know that there's safety. I remember not the first time, I had just recently transitioned and I like to hide at home. I work remotely, but I had to take a package to UPS. And I walked in and there was like a big line. And so I was immediately super nervous and on edge, looking at the types of people that were in line. And I'm trying to guess, is anyone look at me? Does anyone notice me? Am I safe here? And then a lady walked in behind me that had just a heart shirt and said, "Be kind." And I had a rainbow on it. And the ease that that washed over me, knowing that she was there behind me. I never talked to her. I never said, "Thank you for showing up." She just showed up with the shirt on that who knows if she even thought about picking which shirt out that day. But for me, that immediately brought so much peace and comfort to me. And it's the interesting place to be in for sure.
Well, I don't know. Holly, you might have to not listen to this, but Cassie, when I first saw you, I was like, damn, who's that smoke show?
Thank you.
We live in this really interesting area. It's incredibly liberal, but at the same time, there are these it's poking from the outside, and we feel like it's like an infiltration in some of the
Where we live
communities.
here.
Yeah,
It feels so red.
Where she lives, which is 15 minutes from my house, versus where I live, are two different stories. Their soccer moms are different than my soccer moms. And it's an interesting perspective living in a blue state. But at the same time, I still, until, the recent election, always felt very safe. And I'm more mask presenting. I get stared at when I go into bathrooms, very different. But at the same time, living in a liberal state, it still happens. So I can't even imagine the level of just feeling constantly on edge in a place that is less accepting than where we are.
She always wants to whenever she runs errands, she always tries to take at least one of our kids with her because she feels that it's less, I don't know, noticeable.
Yeah, for some reason, I think when I have a child with me, people just oh, there's another mom.
It's a mom and her kid.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And so...
Because we're invisible.
Yeah, moms are invisible, literally.
It's a really
so
weird
true.
thing. But
so true.
Yeah, it's nice to have them there. And I will say, as hard as it is sometimes to show up, I think it depends on the day. Some days I will be very bold in showing up. There's other days that I want to hide. But I think back to the fact that I never met a trans person growing up my entire life. There's trans people here in St. George. A lot of us hide, but I'm trying to be a positive interaction with as many people as I can because it's so hard to hate up close. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes I don't want to go outside in our neighborhood, but then some days I do and fix the neighborhood kid's bike. It brings me a little bit of joy to show up in a very kind, normal way and change people's perspectives, hopefully, on the experience of knowing somebody who's trans.
She's always willing to help. I mean, she's the first one to offer to help someone you have lots of talents and skills that you use from all of your masking. And so she can fix cars. She can fix anything around the house. And that's one of her core values is helping others. And so she's always willing to help people in the neighborhood. So they know her as someone who helps.
Okay.
And
we need you here.
We need you because my wife and I can't fix shit.
Useless.
Useless. Yeah. Oh, We tricked you into coming onto the pod so we can make you move to New York and be our neighbors.
Maybe we will.
But can we also talk about, ladies, how sometimes it's so nice to just like get your nails done together?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Well, I mean, I wish she was taller.
I know. That's, I wish we could share clothes.
We can share earrings. But, it's like hanging out with the ladies all the time. It's amazing.
I know. Before she transitioned, before she came out to me, people would talk about needing like girls' nights. And I'd be like, I don't ever need a girls' night. I just like hanging out with my person, And now it makes so much more sense why I never needed a girls' night. It's girls' night every night.
Girls' night every night.
Oh, that's great.
So what has it been like with you and your kids? I find that I think that people think, right? Okay, so my kids have 2 moms. I think people think you have like one conversation with your kids and you're done. It's all been solved. And kind of explaining to people that like, it's a different story when you tell your toddler they have 2 moms than when you tell your 5-year-old and then your 7-year-old and then your 8-year-old. You're having these conversations again and again as they mature and they can understand a little more. So you have 5 kids over, I assume, a handful of years. So is it like, sit down with all of them and, okay, tonight the family's talking about this? Or how do you transition, so to speak, from we're a family in the Mormon church to now we're a family and our belief system has shifted and this is how we're going to handle that?
Yeah, I think it definitely came in stages. Because like when I came out, I still was a very believing member. And I thought I could be the change from within. I could be the one person who's accepted my trans identity, but never transitioned. And like, I really believed that. And I really did believe the church and all the beliefs that go with it. And so I had to deconstruct that separately. It wasn't like I came out and all of a sudden the church is the worst and I left. It was like a different transition from I believe everything, but I'm trans, to now saying, well, I don't know if I believe the church. And I had to really do a lot of deep understanding.
So talking with the kids, yes, definitely happened in stages. And we talked with the older kids a lot differently than we talked with the younger kids. And like Hallie, she doesn't really remember before Cassie transitioned. So for her experience is completely different because she just has always had 2 moms. And so those conversations are definitely ongoing and continuing throughout.
And so it went from like, oh, I'm trans, but, and I think it was like, I was going to get my ears pierced. So I was like, the kids need to know like why I'm getting my ears pierced. That's going to be so weird because that's how we think in the church is like, that's a big no-no.
Is for boys to get their ears pierced.
So
that's not okay.
Ears pierced. And I had to explain to them why. And then it was like, well, actually, we're also not going to go to church anymore. And also like, we're moving down. And then, oh, now I'm transitioning. And there's a moment when after I transitioned and I still hadn't really talked to the kids about calling me anything different. And we were at the grocery store, me and my oldest, and all of our children are blessed with very loud voices. And I try to hide. I try to like be as, small.
You try to blend it as much as you can.
And our oldest was saying, Dad. And he's already like so loud, right? So people are starting to like notice and I'm walking away and people are going to see Dad and visually see me. Like it was going to like be the bigger thing. So he starts yelling across the store, Dad. And I'm like, I'm melting down that everybody's looking at who's this child who's screaming across the store to their dad. And that's not a dad. And so after that moment, we came home and I was like, we got to find a different name. Can you maybe call me something else? I don't want to take that from you. And they on their own were like, well, you're Mama Cass. I was like, done.
Also great.
They had to like have multiple conversations of your Mama Cass and I don't have a dad. I have 2 moms and it's an ongoing evolution as they get older. It's nice having older kids who just take a lot of that, honestly, organically, and answer the questions of the younger children.
Mm-hmm. And our kids have been incredible with how they've loved and accepted Cassie and just welcomed her with open arms from the very beginning. They really have been incredible.
I'm telling you, it's because you guys are like the Bluey parents.
All comes back to Bluey.
You are.
It's my favorite compliment we've ever gotten.
Honestly, that's every time I watch that show, I'm like, oh, I wish I was like them.
Oh, they're just amazing, right?
They're just too fun. My kids watch too much of it, and I'm like, I don't want to play that game where you get to say frog and I have to be a frog. Like I'm trying to cook dinner.
I know.
So
I wanna
unfun.
now. I'm not going to do dance mode. I'm sorry.
I'm not doing
I'll do dance mode anytime.
Yeah, you will. Do you guys have any advice on how do you talk to people who just don't get it? I literally had a student today. I was teaching class and I went to go run to the bathroom to grab a paper towel, and it's like an all gender restroom. So it's the boy picture, the girl picture, and then the half and half. And this student I've never seen before, this young man I was like, are you waiting? He's like, no, I'm just upset. There's only 2 genders. That shouldn't be on the door. And I was like, oh my God, I don't have the time to make this a teachable moment. Can't believe this is happening. What have you even come up with? When do we engage? How do we talk to people if they, I don't know about you, but do people sometimes just give you their unsolicited opinion? And what do you have to say to that?
I mean, I think especially right now, I'm having to go through just a lot of radical acceptance that I'm not going to be able to change somebody else's perspective on who I am. I can change mine, and that's enough in and of itself, is to get over my own internalized transphobia. I don't have enough bandwidth to deal with somebody else's transphobia other than just choosing to show up. I think one of the first experiences we had when we were out somewhere for a date and I noticed a kid taking pictures of us, and I could feel myself just shrinking and shutting down. And now, depends on the day, being able to be just more bold and be like, hi, would you like me to pose? How would you do that? We can kiss if you want. But recognizing that I'm not going to change it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you have no control over how they view it. We have started a little Instagram account called Curious Hearts with some friends that have a trans daughter. And just to try and answer some of the basic questions and to give a resource for people to go to when they have, just start from ground zero. What does it mean to be trans? Why are there more than 2 genders? Gender's not a binary, it's a spectrum. And just trying to explain some of those basic things. And so that's been a good resource as we've gotten those posts made. We can turn people, if they're honestly and willingly wanting to learn, then we can share that with them. Cassie's always willing to share her experience with people who are honestly and kindly wanting to know. On our cruise, you had so many conversations with people. I remember waking up from a nap by the hot tub and Cassie's telling her story to 20 people in the hot tub. And I'm like, oh, okay, we're doing it. But thankfully in Utah, at least, people are just more silently judgmental. That we don't have too many experiences where people are abrasive or loud against us. It's more the quiet, whispering and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think really that's where is finding people, if you're willing to be honest and curious, always happy to share, and trying to provide the questions that people can ask to think through their own filters that they have on what their belief set is. So I think if somebody's really genuinely curious, there's so many ways to be able to help them think through their experience and relate it to somebody else's experience.
Yeah, and I think what you said rings really true, especially right now. My wife and I have always kind of been that way where I'm like, if people want to know how we had babies, I'm happy to tell them. If I am meeting someone in New York, and an adult person in 2025 in New York State who has never seen a queer couple, I will answer all of their questions. If they're coming from a place of genuine curiosity, I don't fault anyone for that. But then on the other hand, we are at a point where I'm like, it's not my job to save everyone. It's not my job to try to convince anyone. I also get to just go take care of myself and my family and the people that we love and who love us. And that's okay too. We don't all just have to be master educators all the time. Yeah. We can just go enjoy our lives.
Yeah. And I think there are some privileges that come with being trans and showing up authentically. I think just by me existing and showing up authentically encourages and gives other people the permission to show up authentically as themselves, and not necessarily as anything gender diverse or queer or anything, but just to be open and vulnerable with me. I've had so many people tell me so many of their deep, dark secrets because I'm living my deep, dark secret. it's been a really like humanizing experience to be able to share that with people.
I love.
Me too.
You want to do some queer
Quickies. Okay, so here's the thing. We have some like rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
Shoot.
Still ready.
I love this first question because it says so much about someone. Okay, who's your first celebrity crush?
Mine was Channing Tatum.
Oh, okay.
Not anymore. What about yours?
I don't know. That's a hard one to even like think through. I think it's a rapid fire question, but I was so confused about my gender. I never really figured out sexuality. So I don't know.
I'd say Scarlett Johansson. That's who you've always been attracted to.
Oh, okay. I want that for all of us.
Cassie.
Scarlett Johansson. I mean,
Scarja, big fan of Scarja.
Yeah, I mean,
what's the movie in the Marvel movie? Loved that one.
I don't do those.
Black Widow.
Yes.
Yes.
I need to put that back. I need to watch that the second time. It's great.
Yeah.
Okay. First queer bar you ever went to?
It's an easy answer. That was the answer.
Never. I've never been to a queer bar.
Not even when you were in New York for
I've only been to like 3 bars, period.
We weren't allowed to drink.
Oh,
We didn't drink.
yeah.
We're still new to all of that.
We're still baby queers.
Maybe queers. This is why you need to move to New York.
This
Oh,
is
no,
so
cute. There's a lot of
cute. We got to take you to the cubby hole.
the cubby hole.
You can have just the worst drink of your life.
Worst drink. What's the one stereotype about queer women that you secretly love?
I don't know if we know enough about like stereotypes.
Cassie just taught me about the what are they called? The little
Caribbean.
Carabiners? Oh my God.
We just had this conversation. It's like we're talking to like queer women our own age who just got dropped on planet Earth. This is so fun.
Another guest said carabiners.
Just learned about carabiners.
Yep.
They're great. I went to the grocery store today and I just thought about my carabiner.
I can't think
Clipped
about
it
this.
right onto my jeans.
Stresses my Virgo ass
I
out.
didn't even put it on a shopping cart.
What's your queer superpower?
Yeah, I think mine is like the authentic, like showing up authentic and in other people to be authentic.
Okay, this is my favorite one. What makes you go from 0 to unhinged?
Kids screaming.
kid.
Yeah, I mean, like the shrill just reaching that like it.
The shrill.
The shrill.
That's Quinn.
It's first.
Uh-huh. Yeah. It's like I'll physically sometimes just violently react. I'm like, I can't. Yes. The sounds that come out of these children. And they have 5 of them.
I know. It's amazing. Okay, last one. Best / your favorite queer movie or show?
Heartstopper.
Sleeper or Schitt's Creek.
Oh yeah. I love Schitt's Creek. I don't know if I define it as like a queer show
True.
because it's so just normal. They rarely address anything. They're just people, but
yeah,
I do love-
Heartstopper was so cute.
So
love both.
cute.
Stopper.
I also I really loved that Schitt's Creek was able to just have a queer relationship without it having, there was no all the drama was just about it being a relationship and not about it being a queer relationship. And that we all really deserved.
Yeah.
That cuteness.
We went and watched that show.
We just watched a couple episodes the other night just to get us in a better mood.
Yeah,
I do that sometimes. I just need to feel good.
Yeah.
David and Patrick singing to each other.
My favorite.
Simply the best. Simply the best.
Simply the best. Oh,
amazing.
yeah, sometimes I just watch that episode where they do the open mic night and it just makes me feel happy.
Look,
We deserve some happiness, especially since the world's on fire.
Yeah, it's been
For
a little
sure.
crazy.
I know.
This has been super fun.
We were both just shaking with excitement to have you on. Thank you, first of all, for just your honesty, for being so candid with us, and for just being willing to talk about your lives. You guys are so beautiful.
Thank you. We were so happy that we ran into you.
I know, for real. Our cruise was fun, but we talk about the Pride Parade in New York being like the best part of the trip, and meeting you and just seeing other like queer moms and families with two moms, just because that's so uncommon here that it just was so refreshing.
Look at them just yelling at their kids like they're out to best.
No, it was
We felt at home.
Everyone needs to follow your Curious Hearts on Instagram. Thank you for chatting with us so much.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Love you guys.
Thanks to Holly and Cassie for sharing their love story with us. We can't wait to take them to their first queer bar. And thanks to you for listening to Unseen, Queer Millennial Life Unfiltered. Don't forget to subscribe to our show wherever you get your podcasts. This podcast is powered by Pink Robin. Follow us on social media at Pink Robin Shop.